Right now, somewhere on Earth, someone is raising a glass. A toast, a celebration, a quiet drink after a hard day. It feels like a normal human thing to do. But here is what almost nobody thinks about. Before there were bottles, before there was farming, before there were even proper words for it, something in us was already reaching for this exact chemical. And the reason why is stranger and far older than you think. To find the real beginning, we do not start with humans at all. We start in the trees, millions of years, before the first person ever walked upright. Ripe fruit falls to the forest floor, and wild yeast, invisible and everywhere, starts to break down its sugar. That process is fermentation, and one of its natural byproducts is ethanol, the same alcohol in a glass of wine. Today was already leaking out of rotting fruit, long before anyone existed to drink it on purpose. Our distant ancestors, small, tree-dwelling primates, ate that fruit constantly. And here is the strange part. The fruit that had started to ferment was not poison to them. It was a signal. A very faint alcohol smell meant one thing. Ripe, sugar-rich, calorie-dense food, exactly what a hungry primate needed to survive. Animals that could detect that smell from a distance and were not harmed by a little ethanol, simply ate better and lived longer. A biologist named Robert Dudley studied this pattern and gave it a name that sounds almost like a joke: the Drunken Monkey Hypothesis. His argument is that our attraction to alcohol is not a modern accident or a moral failing. It is a leftover instinct millions of years old from primates who were rewarded for chasing that smell through the forest. When you feel a pull toward a drink today, some tiny part of that pull may be an ancient food-finding reflex, running in a world that no longer needs it. Somewhere along the way, our bodies change to match this new relationship. Humans and our closest ape relatives carry a mutation in a liver enzyme that makes us roughly 40 times better at breaking down ethanol than most other animals. That mutation appeared millions of years before agriculture, long before anyone brewed anything on purpose. It suggests our ancestors were already regularly exposed to fermented fruit in the wild, and evolution quietly rewired our bodies to handle it. Now fast forward to actual humans, and the story does not slow down. It gets bigger. For a long time, historians assumed farming came first, and that people only started fermenting grain after they had already settled down to grow food. But the evidence tells a stranger story. At a site called Gobekli Tepe in modern Turkey, archaeologists found massive carved stone vats, dated to roughly 11,000 years ago, with residue consistent with fermenting grain into a beer-like drink. This site is thousands of years older than the earliest known farming villages. Some researchers now argue for what is called the beer before bread hypothesis, that the desire to reliably produce alcohol may have been one of the reasons humans started deliberately planting and harvesting grain in the first place, not just to bake it into food. If that is even partly true, then alcohol is not a side effect of civilization. It may be one of the reasons civilization started it all. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, in a village called Jiahu in ancient China, archaeologist Patrick McGovern found pottery jars nearly 9,000 years old, coated with the chemical fingerprints of a fermented drink made from rice, honey, and fruit. Two civilizations, separated by thousands of miles with no contact, independently discovered the exact same trick almost as soon as they had the tools to try it. So why did it spread everywhere, instead of staying a strange local habit? Because fermented drinks solved a second problem nobody had solved yet: safety. Untreated water in early settlements was often full of dangerous bacteria. Beer and wine, brewed and slightly acidic, were far less likely to make you sick. For thousands of years, alcohol may have quite literally kept entire populations alive by giving them something safer to drink than the water around them. But that still does not explain why we kept drinking it once clean water became easy to find. For that, we have to look at what alcohol does to the brain. In small amounts, it lowers activity in the parts of your brain responsible for social fear and self-monitoring. The result is not just relaxation. It is a temporary drop in the walls people normally keep up around each other. Researchers studying social bonding, including work from psychologist Robin Dunbar, have found that groups who drink together report faster trust, more laughter, and stronger short-term bonding than the same group sober. For early humans living in small, fragile tribes, anything that reliably built trust and cooperation was not a luxury. It was survival equipment as important as fire or a sharp blade, which brings us back to that glass being raised somewhere right now. The toast, the shared drink, the slightly looser conversation that follows. None of that is new. It is an ancient tool first discovered by accident in rotting fruit, refined over 11,000 years of deliberate brewing, that our species has used again and again, for the same two reasons: to survive and to trust each other enough to survive together. We like to think of a drink as a small, modern pleasure, but it might be one of the oldest technologies we have. Older than the wheel, older than writing, almost as old as the fire we first gathered around. And every single time someone lifts a glass with another person, they are repeating a ritual that helped build human civilization itself, whether they know it or not.